Hello and welcome to another episode of the Digital Access Show. So buongiorno, buonasera, ciao, arrivederci, whatever you want to say in whatever language. Here we are again. Today's guest is someone I've been a fan of for quite a while, actually. I've been following Meryl on LinkedIn. Meryl is a US lady, US of A, and she's got some great information for us. But in particular, what I'd like to look at today is what's happening in the USA in regards to digital accessibility, the legal side of it, and let's have a look at what's happening in Australia and do a comparison. Everyone, I'd like you to meet the wonderful Meryl Evans from Plano, Texas. Hi, Meryl.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me today, Noel. I am excited to be here and to let the listeners know that it's not an American accent I have here. It's an accent that comes from nowhere. It's a deaf accent. So, so it'll be a little adventurous. You may have to listen a little harder, a little differently, but it's just part of me and who I am.
Meryl, I am really excited to meet you. As I said, I've been following you for quite a while and we've been talking to each other on LinkedIn. Meryl, tell us a bit about where you came from, what you do, and where you're heading.
So I come, but you want me to go all the way back to when I was born?
Oh, no. We'd be here for ages, I think, if we did both of us.
Well, I have lived in Texas most of my life. I only lived outside of Texas for a little bit, college and early in my career. But anyway, so where did I come from? I was born profoundly deaf, and I'm the youngest of three kids. So my parents were noticing things I did or didn't do
Mm.
because they had two older kids. I wouldn't respond if they were behind me, like little things like that.
Yeah.
So they took me to the specialist. I got hearing aids by the time I was one, the old vintage hearing aids that you wear on your chest type thing.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Very old vintage, yeah. And and I took a lot of speech therapy, for 10 years.
Yeah.
So with no way to hear my voice like most people hear theirs. That's why I have to act in. It's very, very hard to overcome. Not overcome, that's not the right word, but make it clearer,
Yeah.
more non-standard, more standard speech.
Mm.
Anyway, back in that time, they declared American Sign Language, which is our sign language here in the USA, as you have Auslan, I know.
Yeah.
Anyway, the reason being you develop speech at a very young age. If you wait too long and you miss that time frame,
Yeah.
that very critical time, it's going to be harder to speak. And I learned how to lip read. That's how I listen.
Yeah.
So it, my parents, of course, didn't mind if I wanted to learn sign language, but it just never came up
Yeah.
because there was no one in my life who was fluent.
Oh, of
And
course.
sign
Of course.
language, yeah, sign language is like learning another language, any other
Oh,
language. It's hard. It's hard. It requires dedication and practice. I mean, if I had a niece or a child that used sign language, you bet I would have learned it.
yes.
But there was no one in my life, my everyday life.
Well, that
So
makes
that's
a lot of sense, doesn't it? Because it's all about communication, isn't it?
it is. It is. And
Yeah.
it's so important. Um, so for the last 5 years or so, I have ramped up my advocacy for disability inclusion and accessibility.
Yeah.
Not just digital accessibility, but what I like to call 360 degree accessibility. In other words, accessibility everywhere. not just online, right? So that's what I'm focused on, just to keep educating, keep speaking, keep training, keep. There's just so many people who haven't gotten the message.
What does accessibility mean to you, as in practical terms?
Accessibility means giving everybody, it levels the playing field for everyone and gives everyone on the same level. And no playing field is a idiom. No. So I can't hear, right?
Yeah.
So if we're in a video meeting and no caption, no anything, I'm being left behind. That's not leveling the field for me. The
Yeah.
caption, adding caption, gives me what I mean. And it means giving people what they need to be able to do whatever they need to, like everyone else. That's all it is. It's just, I don't know
You know,
about what it is.
yeah,
Yeah.
and well, I actually agree with you because one of the things that I often hear is, oh, but it's expensive to do. Or my second argument that I hear is, it's really hard to do. But how hard is it to turn on captions on Zoom?
Nothing. No, well, it depends. The funny thing is with June, even
Yeah.
though it's 2024, June added caption in 2020 after the pandemic. And I
Mm.
still run into accounts that don't have the caption turned on because they need to turn it on their account first. Once they
Yeah.
do it, then they have captions available for other meetings. So it's that one step that makes it more complicated than it needs to be. But that's what happens when accessibility is an afterthought, when accessibility comes later, when it's not baked in from the beginning. If it had been baked in when June 1st came to be, it would have been a much easier process.
And
Anyway,
that's it. I
accessibility is
agree.
not yeah.
Yeah.
Accessibility is not expensive at all. Most cost under $500, and there's
Yeah.
a lot of options that are free. So it's not hard and it's not expensive, as
Yeah.
people think.
Yeah, and that's $500 US. Obviously, over here, double it. But you know what? I agree with you. It's if you do it from the start, it's not expensive. It's when you've got to go back and add it in, that's when the cost comes in, doesn't it? It's not that's and we can't do anything about it because you're rebuilding what you've already got.
Exactly. And what happens there, as you add these things, you cause other problems.
Yeah.
That's just how development works. It's not like, ooh, I can add this little thing and it'll be fine. But
Yeah,
no, add a little thing that breaks something else. So development is very complicated.
it
I
is.
see people complaining on social media all the time. How come they haven't done this? It's so simple. How come they haven't done this to make it acceptable? But it's not simple. It,
No.
that's the thing about development. It's complicated and has so many overlaps that can cause a domino effect and cause more problems.
Yeah, and you're right. And I'm a coder by trade, so I wrote code for 35 odd years.
Cool.
And when you do it from scratch and it's just part of your standard practice, it's not hard stuff, is it? Like one of the easy ones, I used to do desktop and I do database stuff. So database is slightly different because we're in the guts of it. But when you're doing a desktop app or you're doing a web app, it can be as simple as ensuring there's always a shortcut key to access the function. And that's very simple code-wise to do. But if you've got to go and add it in later or take things out because like one of my hates is music that blares at me when I go onto a website and I'm using the screen reader and something else has opened up and running at the same time. I've got to find it for a start. I've got to turn it off. And it's also very disorienting to find that. And then, if you've got to strip that out because it's something that's very disorienting, maybe you've got to redesign your website. That's when the cost comes in. Or the other one I really hate, because I've still got a tiny bit of sight, is the flashing. Anything that flashes at me or really bright, because I'm very light sensitive. And I
Same.
get straight off the website because I can't deal with it. I can't turn it off. But if it's in the design that the web designer has done, it's got to be stripped out or stopped or changed to something else. And that's where the cost comes in. And but it's not just with that, is it? It's like audio description for TV is another one. They put it in as an afterthought, and that's when it gets costly.
Absolutely right. Yeah. So that's why it's so important about it from the beginning.
Yeah,
And I used to work in project management. Basically, I was the go-between
yeah,
marketing team and the development team.
yeah,
So I would
yeah,
speak English for each, help them.
yep,
So yeah, so it was always complicated because we had a fancy system that was been around for many, many
yep,
years.
yep.
So adding new features and changing things was never simple. It was always a lot of work. So, and they weren't effectively related. That's just how development works. It's
It
just
is.
complicated.
What's the legal background for digital accessibility or any accessibility in the US?
What's the legal background
Yeah,
in the US?
yeah, yeah.
Okay, so we have the American with Disability Act,
Okay.
but it's not just focused on digital accessibility, it's focused on all accessibility. It's very general.
Yep,
It doesn't say, oh, your website should be accessible. No, it's general. It
yeah,
says whatever the public has access to, whatever the public has access to, it's, people with disabilities should have equal for access and enjoyment of the same services.
yeah,
And when you have accessibility barriers, you're preventing that from happening. So it's all about how the court translated, how the lawyers present their cases.
yep,
But yeah, lawsuits are bad here. America is a very lawsuit happy country. That people want to sue, and but most of the time it's not because they can't access something. It's because
yep.
they want make a quick buck. They want to make money. So,
Oh,
because they're not doing it out of the goodness of their heart, they're doing it to make
yeah.
money,
So
personally.
over here, we keep hearing about Section 508. What's that?
So Section 508 is part of the reha- rehab- ah, Rehabilitation Act.
Yep,
So, yeah, they look at different things. One is based on it has a title two and title three, if I remember right.
yep.
I always get my laws mixed up, so I always have to look it up.
No, that's all right. I'm just curious.
My
Yeah,
mind does not work well with laws,
yeah,
but it's about government versus businesses, and there's also education, a section for education, equal
yep,
access to education.
yep,
So they have different pieces, but they all apply. Which applies depends on the case, the
yeah.
lawsuit. Yeah,
Interesting.
I'm not a lawyer. I'm not an
Yeah, no,
expert.
and yeah. And I'm
Yeah,
the same as you. I'm not a lawyer. Over here, we have the Disability Discrimination Act 1992. It sounds very similar to your American Disability Act. It does say, like yours, that we should all have access within reason to the same information. And the words here are within reason. And then we have a standard. So it's called the Digital Accessibility Standard, which is maintained by government here, and it aligns to the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, version 2, level A. And it is not mandatory. The easiest way I explain it to people, I'm a bit of a hoon. I used to love driving, and I still do love driving. They don't let me. but I used to be able to change the oil and change the tires, and I had a bit of an idea. And I'd say to people, it's equivalent to someone grabbing their car and saying, right, I'm going to change the oil, change the windscreen wiper fluid, check the water. Yeah, I reckon I can get another 100 kilometres out of those tyres and writing a roadworthy certificate. In Australia, to drive, have a car on the road, you've got to have a roadworthy certificate. But it's equivalent to you writing out your own roadworthy certificate. And so what happens is companies over here and government does the same, they go and they assess themselves. But if they're not assessing using a screen reader, or they might use a screen reader, but if they've got sight, they can work out how to get to it. But if you're only listening and you've only got listening and touch and smell, well, four of the five senses, it makes it really hard to get around. And there's a push on in the disability sector here to make it mandatory that all government, all private should be accessible. It's not going to happen because of the cost. I know that. But one of my things when I look at it now and think, what can we do better? And I keep saying to business, the best thing in Australia, meet those standards, because we've got like 13 million Australians with a vision impairment. There's 3.5 million with a hearing impairment. This is 2018 stats. There's 4.4 million with disability. English as a second language is another issue. We're talking over half our population. So just putting the standard in is going to make life better. And it's the same with physical standards for wheelchair access and crutches and all those other things. What's the feeling over in the US in regards to that?
Can you ask your question again, please?
What's the feeling in regards to the US in relation to bringing in standards for digital accessibility, physical accessibility, so it's mandatory? Do you think it will happen?
Oh, no, at least not anytime soon. I mean,
Yeah,
that's just reality. A lot of time, the state or the local government might be responsible. For example, I'm excited about New York, the state of New York.
yeah,
They, three of the senators have proposed a bill that requires complying with WCAG
oh my
version
God.
2.2 AA.
Oh,
So
fantastic.
it's not passed yet, but
Yeah,
it's out there. And Colorado, I believe, has passed something similar. I I've been learning this from Thomas Logan and Ken Nakata. They've been producing A11Y inside. A11Y is short for accessibility. It's a new anyway. So they've been talking about all these different lawsuits, California, New York, Maine. Um, oh, the interesting thing about Maine, there's a business in Maine,
yeah.
but there was a customer in New York. They put up a lawsuit against the Maine business, and the Maine business was getting all these lawyer
Oh,
notices. And they're like, New York, this is a spam. This must be spam. But
yeah.
no, because the customers in New York, they had to file in New York. Anyway, I'm getting off track here.
Oh my gosh. And that's legal
It's
to do
legal.
that.
It's
Oh my
legal. That's
God.
what I told you. USA is lawsuit happy. We love, not me personally, we
Yeah,
love our lawsuits. But on Section 508 and ADA,
yeah,
they just have different scopes. So ADA just simply protects Americans from discrimination based on accessibility,
yeah,
disability, not accessibility.
yeah.
Well, Section 508, they federal entities have to use and create, tech, um, make it accessible to people, make information and communication technology accessible to people with disabilities. So
Yeah.
it's more focused on procurement, buying things at the government level. So that's what I mean. They have different scopes they look at.
Yeah.
And so it's a
It's
mess.
crazy, isn't it? Here
It
in
is. It
Australia,
is.
you can be sued for not being for being discriminatory in Australia, but you can never be sued for not being digitally accessible. And look, I'm not into suing anyone. I think it's not worth it. It gets around, it doesn't help the situation. But here in Australia, the other thing that happens is we've got the Human Rights Commission, and we can go to the Human Rights Commission and say, oh, Joe Blow's company, I can't, that's discriminatory. And they do a lot of mediation and nothing happens.
Oh, that's
Not a
very
lot happens.
typical. Yeah. So, Thomas and Kim that I was just talking about,
Yeah,
they stacked them lawsuits from 2021, 2022.
yeah,
It was a bunch of drug companies and grocery stores.
yeah,
The websites did not make the COVID vaccine appointment, to make appointments to get your
yeah,
vaccine
yeah,
acceptable to screen reader. Well,
yeah,
they decided to look at all those companies' websites today. I mean, 2024, so 2 years later,
yeah,
only one of them was acceptable. So, despite this lawsuit, it changed nothing. And that is
yeah,
time lawsuits don't change anything. However,
oh,
that company in Maine I told you about,
yeah,
so they added an accessibility overlay. That
oh,
is, a lot of people don't know what that is. That is a tool that
yeah,
where you add a little code and it's supposed to make your website accessible, but that's not true. We know that.
yes,
Interesting enough, Ken and Thomas looked at the original lawsuit. They pinpointed one of the specific problems identified in the lawsuit.
yeah,
Well, they tested it out on the overlay to see if it solved the problem. It
yeah,
didn't. It's
yeah,
still not acceptable. So overlays don't fix anything. So that's
yeah,
a whole nother thing. We'll be
it
here
is.
for hours.
Oh,
We could talk
that'll be
on
another
about
podcast.
that.
That'll be another one because I have the same problem. I find those overlays sometimes interfere with what I'm trying to do with my screen reader. So I just leave the website. It's not worth it. Look,
Yeah.
Meryl, we could be here seriously for hours because I think we've got a lot in common.
And I think
But
we're just about out of time.
but basically, in summing up, neither the US or Australia are really serious about digital accessibility. They are serious about discrimination, and unfortunately, that doesn't help because we're talking communication. What do you think? Have I summed it up properly?
Yeah, you did very nicely.
Meryl, thanks. Thank you so much for coming on. Thank you so much for your time. Have a lovely night. Have a lovely
Thank you for
weekend.
having me. With a joy. I enjoyed our conversation. Got a little off track. I want to do some cutting.
Well, do you know what? I think we could probably get very off track very, very easily because I'm pretty renowned for it as well. Thanks. And we'll have to do this again, Meryl, because I love chatting.
Thank you. I enjoyed it too. Well,
Have
have a
a
great day. Yeah, it's your Thursday. It's
Yep,
the end of my Wednesday.
yep.
So I'm done for today. I'm going to go to trivia night, enjoy myself, and then do it all over again tomorrow.
Great. See you next
Uh,
time, Meryl.
bye-bye.
Oh, Meryl, how can people
Yes.
contact you if anyone wants to contact you?
Oh, they can go to my website, Meryl.net, MERYL.net,
Yep.
and they can find me and on LinkedIn. You could just enter my name on LinkedIn. You'll find me easily.
Awesome. Thanks, Meryl. Have a
Thank
wonderful
you.
night. Win at trivia.
Bye. Thank you.
See
Oh,
ya.
yeah, I'm competitive.
Well, this is
Bye-bye.
another digital access show. And yeah, Meryl Evans, what a wonderful lady. Great insights. And we'll see you next time.